Hey guys, in this video I'll share the Blood Knight PvP build that I've been currently using in the game, which provides me with the most consistent results in the current state of the game. And no, I'm not talking about the new Spear Fury meta with the unlimited Spear Fury. No, I'm talking about a different build which actually utilizes the new offhand which I call the purple Ravage, and it hits like a truck. Now, if you see the numbers here, I am getting up to 200k damage in PvP, and not just once. This happens quite often in a game of PvP. But it is not that straightforward. Full disclosure, right now barbs and monks are doing too good in battlegrounds and it will be a challenge. So I do recommend checking out the gameplay section where I tell you how to play this build, because just equipping the build and going blind is not going to work. As a Blood Knight in the current state of the game, you have to be playing this build, playing this class more smartly, so that you can survive all the CCs and knockbacks and still kill the backline and disrupt the enemy forces, right? So make sure you check the build as well as the gameplay section where I explain how I play this build. Now let's check out the skills and essences for this particular build. For the skills, I am using Transfusion, Sanguinate, Whirling Strike, Swarm of Bat, and for the primary I'm using Ravage. You can also use Shadow's Edge, but this build what I have made is mostly around Ravage. So I'll talk about how you can use Shadow's Edge, but I prefer Ravage in this particular build. Now coming to the essences, for the essences, before I proceed, before I forget, I would like to say that I got this build from Benis. He's in Discord. He shared this build to me initially when I shifted to Blood Knight, but later when I was into Blood Knight and I tried different variations, I have made some changes to the build he shared, and this is what I've come up with, which I find to be most consistent for me, particularly for lower resonance player as well. So anyway, let's go on to the essences what I'm using. The main two essences I'm using is Sin Carver for Whirling Strike and the Dangling Tear for your Ravage. These two are going to be the key essences for this build. What is going to happen is you are going to use Whirling Strike and then you are going to use Ravage. So what is this Whirling Strike? Basically, this is going to knock back enemies, right? And it is also going to cause them bleed. It has only 6 seconds cooldown. So this Whirling Strike is pretty nice. And this Ravage is actually dealing a lot of damage, like I already showed you earlier in the video. Now moving ahead, for Ravage we are also using, let's go for Whirling Strike first. Whirling Strike, I'm also using the helmet, which gives me critical hit damage by 57%. That's a lot of critical hit damage. You might even not need high armor pen for this particular build. And for the chest essence, I'm using Whirling Strike, increases damage as you hit the enemy same times, right? Up to 30%. I'm going with damage, but you can obviously go for Count of the Eves for damage reduction, but I prefer damage in this particular build. So these are the 3 Whirling Strike essence. For Ravage, for main hand, there's only 1 essence which causes enemies to bleed for Dangling Tear, and the third Ravage essence is not the bleed one. It is the one which actually increases attack speed when you are attacked. Attack speed is going to be very important, because ideally you would want the enemy to get hit by more and more of this purple Ravage of this particular offhand, right? So I'm going with primary attack speed, and this one I think works better. So those are the Whirling Strike, Ravage essences. No essence for Transfusion or Sanguinate. We finally come to Bats. Swarm of Bats, I have 2 essences. For the pants, we are going with the Bats, which increases critical hit chance by 19%, and it stacks with your critical hit chance, this one, because critical hit chance is going to be very important in this particular build, because we are relying on this helmet essence which does critical hit damage. And for the shoulders, I am using Taste of Copper. What this does is that you can basically passively attack enemies who are bleeding. You can also go for this one, the one which people already use, Torture and Torment, but this one you have to activate. But if you are using this one, Swarm of Bat passively send bats to bleeding enemies, and it also heals you. So how this works is very interesting. I'll show you right now. So once you use Whirling Strike here, right, the target is bleeding, and you can see bats are coming out of my character into the target. Even when I use Ravage, it is bleeding and the bats are going to hit the target. That's why I'm using this particular bats, because you don't have to do much. Damage wise, Torture and Torment gives you slightly more damage than this one, but the damage loss is not a lot. So that is choice yours. I personally prefer this one. Now moving ahead for the set items. For set items, I'm using 4 pieces of V2s, which is going to be very important because of the Whirling Strike, and 4 pieces of Gloom because critical hit chance is very important in this particular build. And because of the V2s, this Whirling Strike actually moves faster. Without the V2s, it is moving very slow, and you might feel that enemies are escaping. V2s is going to be very important, and this is the change that I made. I changed the set items, and I changed the bats, and I also changed the Ravage, right? From the initial build that was shared to me, I found that using V2s is much more reliable, and you can basically get the enemies pretty much easily here. And V2s also helps you in using Ravage, so immediately then you use Ravage, so that's why you get high primary attack speed. 4 piece V2s, 4 piece Gloom for this particular build. Survival is going to be very important for Blood Knights right now in the state of the game. Survival is very important because a lot of CCs are there, so you need high survival. I highly recommend using at least one of these magic FXs, which gives you shield, grants you immunity to 2 hits of damage. This is going to be very helpful. Now for the Paragon tree, I am using Paragon tree with Gladiator, Cheat Death, and Uncontrollable. Very important Uncontrollable in this one. I'm also using, when fighting a player, you deal 4% more damage, and if you kill someone you get 12% more damage and you take 12% less damage, so damage reduction huge from this one. Now for the last one, I'm using Overpowered. For every player you kill, you get critical hit chance. From whatever testing I have done, I think this is not strifed. You get full 3% up to 5 times 15%. So critical hit chance, I'm really focusing on critical hit chance. People also use first aid for healing. That is up to you. You can go for that or this one, right? But this is my preferred setup. You can also go for first aid and also Juggernaut, depending. There is some flexibility here. For the secondary stats, the most important one for this Blood Knights in general right now, any build, is going to be armor. You have to be more tanky as a Blood Knight because you are going in melee range, right? So armor and resistance is going to be more important in this particular build. Now my stats are not ideal, but I would highly recommend having high armor in this particular build. Potency is nice, but yeah, high armor is very important. Even armor resistance is going to help you a lot. For curse property, I am using 6 pieces of tortured because we are using dash. Now let's check out the most important part of this video, and that is the gameplay. Gameplay is going to be very important. So in this gameplay, what we need to do as a Blood Knight is you need to tiptoe your way to the back line and then get the enemy cornered to a wall, right? That is how you're going to be successful in this particular build. So like you see, I moving using my Sanguinate to just go to the back line, and then I get the enemy and I hit them with the Whirling Strike, and then I hit them with the Ravage and I kill the enemy. So you saw that I moved straightly towards the back line. Again, there is more example, like again I'm using Sanguinate and I'm moving straight back to the enemy, and then I'm finishing him off with my primary attack. Make sure to always use transfusion before diving in, because survivability is very important for Blood Knight in the current meta, right? So anyway, again an example, I move back, then there is this Demon Hunter. You will see that I move parallel to the Demon Hunter because the width of this Whirling Strike is pretty big, right? So you see, even if I'm at the side of the Demon Hunter, I'm still able to gather him to the wall, right? So I gathered him to the wall and I hit primary attack. This should be your like a reflex, both of them, right? The Whirling Strike and the primary, it should be like a reflex. And then I again go and attack the Demon Hunter, but he escapes. So the mistake that I did here was that the Whirling Strike, the second one that I used, I missed. Try not to do that. Both of the Whirling Strike probably you will need in any counter. You Whirling Strike, Ravage, then you again do Whirling Strike and again Ravage. You will need the entire combo, so make sure you do not miss the second Whirling Strike, right? So Whirling Strike gathers 2 people as well. Like I said, it has a very thick radius, so I'm gathering 2 people again and then I kill them, right? So it is very good against backlines. Here again gather them and again, but keep in mind that this is also very good for people who are running away and also for the backline. This is the main focus of this build. Barbs and monks are still going to be super challenging, but yeah, you can still deal with them in one way or the other. Here again I missed the whirling strike once again, that's why I could not kill him, but again I go back in the battle and I get the kill. But do not miss the whirling strike. Like here in this case, the demon hunter jumps on me, I sanguinate, and then I use the first whirling strike, again the second whirling strike. Second whirling strike is very important here. Now there is bleed as well. I do the bleed on the necromancer and the bleed gets me a kill. Not going to happen a lot, but yeah, these things will happen sometimes. The bleed is also very nice to have. So yeah guys, that is the build that I'm using currently. I hope you will like this build. Make sure you give it a try. There is also another build that is going on with the unlimited dash with the spear flurry. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this part in the video, but that particular build I am not convinced that it is good for low resonance. What I found that in the spear flurry build, you need to be a whale, or you need to be really stacked in your PvP as compared to other players, because survivability is a big problem in that build, where you are constantly getting frozen or knocked back or pulled from the barb, and surviving all that is not an easy task for low and mid resonance player. If you are a whale, you can do that. That's why a lot of whales are using the new Blood Knight PvP meta, but until I'm convinced, I don't think so I'll be making a video on that PvP meta build. However, I think Harbonis has already made, and Kill Switch is also working. He shared me his build, so I think those guys are also working on that build. So maybe you can check on those channel, or when I'm able to make it work, I will be sharing in my channel as well. In the last video, I did say that 2 new builds are coming for PvP. One was this one, the second was that PvP, the meta build that's going on. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to make that build, but video. But yeah, stay tuned. If there's update, if I find that build to be make it work, then I'll definitely share it in my channel. Thank you for watching. If you have any queries, if I missed out anything in this build, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.